This is going to be text-to-speech, because it is late and I don't wish to wake people up. I found this video on YouTube and cannot sleep without rebuking some of his claims.
Is men rights groups, or men rights activists, they are insane. I don't know why I started looking them up. I don't know why I started researching. I knew they were bad. I just wanted to know how bad.
So you admit that you have come into the MRM with preconceived notions, and this is something that we humans do, so I don't mock you for it. However, I urge you to be skeptical and not judge immediately. I suspect that maybe, just maybe, there is a part of you which wants to hear the other side of the argument.
Okay, number one, they invented a word. That word is incel, which means involuntary celibate. That word's a horrible word. Okay, number one, it suggests that being a virgin and not having sex is bad by default, which it's not. I gotta disprove that.
Being asexual, I don't see how involuntary celibacy would apply to you, as you choose to be asexual in practice, and as such I think it is a misrepresentation of its meaning to apply it to asexuality. Furthermore, this terminology does not belong to the MRM, but most likely you are referring to pickup artist community, which largely despises the MRM. In fact, Roosh, a master pickup artist, blamed the MRM for Elliot Rodger. The reason is he thinks MRM is a euphemism for sexual loser, and that the MRM should advocate for pickup techniques for its members. And no, we don't agree. And no, the MRM was not linked with Elliot Rodger in any way. I did a Google of the term incel, and the first result is from Salon, which is not an impartial news source. But the term itself is somewhat irrelevant, as being a virgin for a man is seen as shameful for the reason that it is our purpose on earth to reproduce. Whether it is incel or virgin doesn't change that stigma, although it is changing in Japan with the rise of the herbivore culture. Also, nobody in the MRM say that men are owed sex. There was a quote that is taken out of context by Warren Farrell about quote date fraud end quote. However, what he is referring to is that the dating courtship of man paying for the date is outdated and unfair. The main point is that the term isn't of the men's rights movement.
The craziest thing about it is it's a word that's an insult to themselves. They couldn't get laid, so they came up with this word that means bad things if you don't get laid.
Wait, how do we not know that the term incels was created to take the stigma out of being a virgin, and that Urban Dictionary, Salon and other websites started using it as a pejorative? Also, what about shows like The Big Bang Theory, which turned Sheldon from an asexual into Amy's love interest for the sake of ratings? Isn't that a bigger issue? Also, the woman who played Amy had no problem with it, and she is a supposed feminist. Isn't this reinforcing heteronormativity?
Two reasons I don't like men's rights groups is they don't do anything. They insinuate that they're fighting for guys' rights, but they don't really do anything to help guys' rights. Feminists do more to help guys' rights. Feminists do a lot to help out guys' rights. Men's rights organizations don't do anything to help out guys' rights. At all. If you go on a men's rights website, there'll be these long rants about how to get lucky with women, and also why feminists are evil, and also random racist comments.
Again, I think you confuse other manosphere websites with men's rights. I have never seen a racist comment on AVFM, and pickup artists have nothing to do with the men's rights movement. But anyway, one of the common criticisms of the men's rights movement is that they don't do much. However, it is not a fault of not trying. Fathers for Justice climbed the roofs of Buckingham Palace. AVFM did its first conference just a month ago, and it's obviously done enough to make you create this video. However, the MRM lacks money that the feminist institution gets. Feminism gets billions from government grants, and they have a voting bloc. Only 1 in 5 are a feminist these days, but that is still a huge voting bloc. The MRM, on the other hand, has a scattered interest from around the globe, and yes, it is a global issue. Whether it is the 50,000 men thrown in prison for failure to pay child support in America or men being falsely accused of rape in India, we have problems around the globe. Another factor is that the media just doesn't care about men's issues. When Fathers for Justice vandalized paintings to support their campaign, reminiscent of the suffragettes, the media cared more about the painting by a creator nobody heard of in a gallery nobody goes to. The other factor is that feminism is actively against us. Right now there is a feminist-run organization called wavenetwork.org and they actively oppose 50-50 parenting and they receive funding from the European Union. Feminism is not advocating for men's rights, far from it. They have turned men into second-class citizens. Just today California passed a bill changing statutory rape laws to include any sex that does not have an explicit yes, thus putting male students at risk of false rape accusations. Male students have taken their colleges to court for impediment of their right to due process. Safe haven laws also impede on men's right to due process as the biological father does not have sufficient time or knowledge to make a claim to the child. This is just a few examples, which are buried under gender-neutral laws advocated by feminism.
They make it sound like it's happening like crazy when it's not really happening like crazy. Like there was one post that compared female circumcision to male circumcision, and said that male circumcision is horrible. Now, if I have kids, I'm not having them circumcised if they're guys. But no guys die from being circumcised. I'm circumcised. I'm not dead. 1 out of 4 women die from being female circumcised. Huge issue. Male circumcised, kind of issue, kind of. But women, 1 out of 4 dies. Real issue. Huge issue. Tons of women dying. Real thing. Crazy. Male circumcision issue.
Oh boy, you went for circumcision or MGM, male genital mutilation, which it is. First of all, MGM was revived in the Victorian ages to prevent their sons from masturbating. Seriously, this is true. It is to restrict male sexuality and it sure does. Impotency is a result of cutting off so many nerve endings and what looks small but is in reality 50% of the penile skin. But does it matter if more women die from FGM? Would it be a defense if I said that the reason for the higher death rate is because FGM is underground, meaning that it is in sanitary environment, whereas MGM is done in Western hospitals? Would it matter if I said that more boys are mutilated than females in the world, thus even if the suffering is less individually that it is more widespread? Would it matter if I said that MGM is actually illegal under human rights, as it does not give equal protection? Shouldn't the issue be that boys are being mutilated when they cannot consent and nobody cares? We have already banned FGM. There is nothing more we can do except not be hypocrites in the eyes of these countries which use FGM. Also, by the way, FGM is practiced and conducted by women because it is very lucrative for them. Also, boys do die from circumcision. 117 in the USA each year to be precise. So yes.
They don't actually do anything for men's rights, and they seem to hate on feminists for really no reason. They also take things that are actually negative towards women and turn around to make it seem like a positive towards women. You know, women are harassed and you know, sexually harassed a lot. Like guys say, "Oh, you're hot," or yeah. And you go on a men's rights website and the thing will state, women get complimented for their looks all the time. You know, women love being complimented for their looks. You know, so it's just this turnaround. We know that's not true. We know women don't like being harassed, but these guys like to tell themselves that they do.
A lot to digest here, but what is your allegiance to feminism? Is it because of the coalition of the LGBT community? The LGBT has been a rotten deal for gay men because feminists have made every man a potential rapist or child molester, and as such it puts barriers and presumptions in occupations a gay man may enter into, such as say a nursery teacher. I could go through a checklist of everything feminism has done to harm men, but this video would be an hours long. What I will say is that feminism certainly became a hate-filled institution of psychopaths in 1973 when the feminist organization NOW got demands from its female members to resist 50-50 parenting because they divorced their husbands and wanted to take the children. Nothing has changed except things getting worse. 1 in 3 children in America are raised without a father. Something is wrong here. As for catcalling, I and the MRM condone it. I believe the point was that being complimented for your looks makes you feel good and confident and that it doesn't happen to men as often. Perhaps, and I hate to sound condescending, being asexual you may not understand this. However, men being expected to make the first move is very difficult for many. It is like going into a job interview. Point is, we criticize feminism because it is opposed to equality, and complimenting women is not necessary harassment.
There are some feminist subgroups apparently that are not supportive of transgender women. That's what I've heard a little bit. But it's not all feminist group, and it's not the norm of feminists. And unfortunately, with all groups, you're going to have subgroups that are not nice.
Wow. Literally NAFALT, or not all feminists are like that. Our objection is not to individual feminists or to the likes of Andrea Dawkins. No, our objection is to the ideology and the organizations themselves that advocate for female supremacy whether they know it or not. Take the definition of equality for example. How and what equality is subjective to each individual on Earth. However, it is the feminists who have the monopoly of the word, and ironically, if feminists have the monopoly of the narrative, then that is unequal in itself. So feminism is not about equality. It can't be. The second objection is that they have built an all-encompassing theory of everything that cannot be refuted, and that is patriarchy theory. If anyone points out a contradiction, then the feminists just say patriarchy hurts men too. To put patriarchy theory in context. Let's say I was to say there is a Jewarchy, Jews control the world and have created a civilization that runs around Jewish supremacy. If there are Jews suffering, then Jewarchy hurts men too. So, no. There is no common ground. Would a Jew work with the KKK? Has feminism done good for gays and asexuals? Not really, you are just honorary females under the LGBT rainbow. You get a pass from feminism as one of the good guys as long as you accept that your gender is the origin of sin. The bottom line here is that feminism has no rights to fight for. Seriously, ask them a right they don't have, and instead they will bring up pay gap myths. The MRM on the other hand exists because there are actual rights that men don't have that I have brought up, which feminism has not only not dealt for on our behalf but are actively opposed to.
Caused by men. Like the sexist stereotype that men can't be raped. Unfortunately, that does happen. That's a horrible thing, and that occurs. But the reason why that sexist stereotype exists is because men like to go on, and some men, obviously not all because that's a stereotype, but men have spread the rumor that all of us men love sex like crazy. I don't.